You're welcome to the Gavel. I'm Linda Akibi. The governorship election in Anambra State is slated to hold on November 6th, which is just days away. The insecurity in some parts of the southeast, including Anambra State, and concerns about the possible effect on the upcoming election have been discussed at different fora. Now, the Joint National Assembly Committee on INEC held a meeting with INEC chairman and other critical stakeholders in the election to discuss the level of preparedness for the election. Ahead of a November 6th governorship election in Anambra State, the Joint Senate and House of Representatives Committee on INEC met with INEC Chairman Professor Mahmood Yakubu and heads of security agencies to discuss the level of preparedness for the election. The chairman of the Senate Committee on INEC, Senator Kabiru Gaya, says the meeting is necessary because of the security situation in Anambra State and its effect on the election.
We are very much concerned with the insecurity situation in Anambra State, and that we cannot afford not to hold election on the 6th. Therefore, as a committee on electoral matters and INEC, we decided to invite INEC and all the security chiefs to brief us how prepared they are for the election. It is really democratic, and it's undemocratic. We cannot hold election in that state. Therefore, there is really a need, and it's very essential that INEC must be prepared to hold election with the support of all the security agencies in the country.
INEC Chairman Professor Mahmood Yakubu assured the committee that the Commission is prepared for the Anambra State governorship election.
INEC is ready for the Anambra governorship election in the next 10 days. That is on Saturday, 6 November 2021. When we release the timetable for the election on the 19th of January this year, we identified 14 activities that had to be accomplished leading to the election, from the publication of notice to election day. And as of today, we have successfully accomplished 12 out of the 14 activities on schedule. We have recovered from the series of attacks on our facilities. And I'm happy to say that we have deployed all the non-sensitive materials, not only to Oka, but to all the 21 local government areas. We have trained the requisite number of ad hoc staff for the election. And we have also mobilized the transport owners for electoral logistics.
Speaking to journalists after the meeting, Senator Gaya shed more light on some of the issues discussed during the meeting.
What we needed to hear from the national chairman is that how INEC is prepared to conduct this election. And from what they told us, they all briefed us that they are prepared and they put everything in place. All the documentations required, the papers, the ballot papers, and all the rest are already at the base, which is they are already in Awka, Anambra State. Some are also being deployed even to local government levels. So which means they are prepared for the elections. When we asked some of the security officers that were with us today, they also made their plans to deploy more of the security personnel to Anambra State, and that they are aware of the problems on that or in that state, and they have found challenges or ways of getting rid of that problems. So we have hope and believe that elections will hold in Anambra. We cannot afford not to even hold the election.
The Senate and House of Representatives suspended plenary to allow heads of government ministries, departments and agencies defend their 2022 budget proposals. Now, there's a sense of urgency in this exercise as the National Assembly has given itself a target of passing the 2022 budget by the end of this year. Now, the 2022 budget defense session gathered momentum during the week as we saw heads of government agencies approach different committees to defend their budget proposals. During the week, the Comptroller General of the Nigerian Correctional Service, Mr. Haliru Nababa, appeared before the Senate Committee on Interior to defend the 2022 budget of the Correctional Service. The sum of 50 billion naira is proposed for the Nigeria prisons in the 2022 budget. According to the Interior Committee, there are 66,340 inmates in prisons across the country, out of which an alarming 47,559 of them are unconvicted. Committee members took the prisons boss up on the welfare of inmates, specifically on their feeding and sustenance. They are concerned about the impact of the spike in the cost of food items on feeding inmates.
Many people stay overseas inside the prison and attend universities and come back out from there. Very comfortable, and then you come down here, you send a criminal to prison, the person becomes worse when the person is coming out instead of being better. So I'm thinking, Mr. Chairman, that this issue of feeding these things, we are going to look at it properly here.
Not satisfied with the proposed amount for feeding prison inmates, members call for a review.
Before, inmates are being paid, are being fed 450 naira per day, which is so low when you compare to what is happening now. And as such, we requested for improve or increase from 450 to 750, which we'll put in 2022 budget.
You are coming now and you are just taking it to 750. I expected you to take it to 1,000. Then we will look at it and see how we can come down to 750.
Given the current situation in Nigeria now is reasonable, okay? So we can say 1,000 minimum. Because 1,000 cannot even feed somebody. So I second that motion, subject to the amendment that it should be 1,000 minimum.
I want to commend the sense of empathy and compassion exhibited by my colleagues. You wrote 450 or 750 in recognition of the ground realities of the Nigerian economic system. But I can assure you that as a family, we will look at the issues at stake, talk to the leadership of the Senate, because you are operating the envelope system, but that envelope has to be enhanced.
The Minister of Agriculture was also before the Oversighting Committee during the week to defend his ministry's 2022 budget proposal. The sum of 291 billion naira is proposed for the agricultural sector in 2022, as against 280 billion naira proposed in 2021. However, lawmakers were disappointed at the amount proposed for the agricultural sector in the 2022 budget.
I don't know what magic the ministry intends to employ to ensure food security, looking at even the challenges we have presently in the country, the security challenges. One will expect that the budget for agriculture will be far higher than what we have today.
There are also concerns raised over the underutilization of funds released to the Ministry of Agriculture in the 2021 financial year.
On the issue of low capacity utilization, is not true, because actually, but you remember that it was at June, we had there were no releases, and that was almost half of the year. It wasn't until July, August, we started our procurement process.
We cannot go in.
The Minister of Water Resources was also before its Oversighting Committee to defend its 151.6 billion naira 2022 budget. The ministry and its agencies are expected to generate the sum of 1.95 billion naira revenue in 2022. The minister gave an update on the state of dams across the country.
We just recently did a compendium of all the dams in the country, those that are by the federal government, state governments, and even private. So we have over 400 dams. Many of them, there is no utilization downstream. They were done as phase one. Successive governments were supposed to do the phase two. If you go to Oyan Dam, for instance, in Abeokuta, there are 3 brand new turbines two are in a crate. One is installed and tested since 1987 to provide 9 megawatts of electricity. They were installed, but nobody thought to do the transmission line, how to evacuate the power. When we came in, there are so many dams that have these minor hydropower components. When I went and saw what was happening at Abeokuta, I said, I'm not going to buy any turbine. We'll provide the civil works for it, for the hydropower company, but we'll stop there. Someday, if anybody is interested, you can come and take a concession and go and do it. But the good news is that now we are doing commercialization. We have taken 4 river basin development authorities as pilot study. The idea is to find whatever of the resources that they have that we can bring in public-private partnership, whether it's irrigation, whether it's hydropower, whether it's aquaculture. Even now, we have been singing, anybody can come and invest, all the dams are there.
Speaking to journalists after the meeting, the chairman of the committee also spoke on the state of dams in the country.
Because some dams were even cited where dams cannot be constructed. So what he did was to prioritize, and he has been able to complete some, and he has also decided to do some, I think about 20, as we heard him said, from now till the end of the tenure. So the ministry is very clear about this. When he came, he said he could not, there was no way he could complete all the projects. So he prioritized, there were about 400 scattered, and he said he prioritized. And I think he's doing a wonderful job.
The State House Permanent Secretary was before the Senate Committee on Federal Character to defend a 40 billion naira 2022 budget proposal. A key element of the budget is a proposal for the construction of a 14-bed presidential clinic at the State House, which will gulp the sum of 21 billion naira. While the budget is still under consideration, groundbreaking for the construction of the clinic is slated for November 1st, 2021.
On completion, the facility will have two numbers operating theaters, 2 numbers executive suites, 2 numbers VIP suites, 2 numbers isolation suites, 1 number 6-bed observation area, 5 number specialist consulting clinics, 1 number cath lab, a healing garden. We have a pharmacy, a CT scan, MRI, and then an X-ray facility.
A major point made during the budget defense session of the Ministry of Niger Delta is a protracted power outage in some communities in Ondo State. A federal lawmaker, Senator Nicholas Tofowomo, drew the attention of the Minister of Niger Delta to the electricity blackout in the last 14 years in some communities in Ondo State.
In Ondo South, we have problems there. In the last 14 years, 90% of Ondo South doesn't have electricity. There is no water to drink in Ondo South. Ocean surge is very obvious in Ondo South. Ondo South, we have the longest seashore in Nigeria and is the most abandoned seashore anywhere in the world. This is the time I need to appeal for your assistance so that life can start changing in Ondo South. For instance, they've written a series of petitions, but if my uncle is the minister there, I cannot do anything with the petition than to appeal to him as my uncle. Please assist us so that life can start changing in Ondo South.
I'm not a prophet, but you have light before the end of December. You've been in darkness for 14 years, but you have light before the end of December 2021.
On the 2022 budget proposal for the Ministry of Niger Delta, Senator Akpabio says a total of 28.1 billion naira is proposed for the ministry. He, however, warns that the funds proposed for capital expenditure is grossly inadequate and is asking the committee to increase the capital allocation to enable the ministry provide more projects to meet the aspirations of the people of the Niger Delta region. A member of the committee is in agreement with the minister.
This ministry's budget does not satisfy me at all, and it doesn't satisfy a greater majority of Niger Delta people, and all well-meaning people of Nigeria, because keeping that piece there means the national budget will be on the increase, because that is the wealth of this country. That is the cash cow of this country. So for us to keep that piece is second to none. So the ministry budget, in my humble view, is too low, too low.
On the sidelines of the budget defense sessions, the Senate and House of Representatives committees on science and technology met with heads of government agencies in the sector to discuss the enacting of legislations as well as developments in the sector.
The Senate Committee on Science and Technology has warned against what it terms Nigeria's over-reliance on foreign nations to launch its satellite into orbit. Chairman of the committee, Senator Uche Ekunife, says this could pose confidentiality problems as regards data from the country's satellite. She was speaking during the 2022 Budget Defense session of the National Space Research and Development Agency at the National Assembly. Senator Ekunife, who is seeking more funding for the agency, also expressed concern over the removal of 6 centers established under the agency from first-line charge.
I don't even understand the sense behind this merger, because this merger is unconstitutional, is illegal. It is illegal to have the centers to depend on this main office for their financial operation. Another area of concern to the committee is the Nigerian over-reliance on foreign nations to launch its satellites in the orbits. If this trend continues, there is no doubt that the confidentiality of our satellite data are threatened.
The House of Representatives Committee held a one-day public hearing on a bill to establish a Chartered Institute of Computer Forensics. For the lawmakers and some invited guests, this bill is long overdue.
It's going to be a body to determine standards and knowledge and skills to be attained by persons who are seeking to become practitioners in this area.
However, the Computer Professionals Registration Council of Nigeria is opposed to the bill, citing a likely conflict of laws.
It was established by the CPN Act number 49 of 1993, established to regulate the computing profession, information technology education, and its practice in Nigeria.
The objective of the bill is to obtain a charter or legislative backing for the Computer Forensics Institute of Nigeria, which is already incorporated. Some submissions received also indicate concern that the national security of the country will be left in the hands of the institute, which may not be in the best interest of the country.
Component 3.
Meanwhile, the Senate Committee on Local and Foreign Debt is scrutinizing a $700 million loan request under the Ministry of Water Resources. The loan is for an initiative called the Sustainable Urban and Rural Water Supply, Sanitation and Hygiene, which was negotiated with the World Bank and is expected to deliver improved water sanitation and hygiene services to 2,000 schools and healthcare facilities.
First of all, you let us know what you have done with the first approval that was given to you. We are currently looking, you have to, tell us more things about the Gavel Phase 2 project. And finally, you will let us now know exactly what you are doing, what you want to do with this $700 million US.
The program seeks to promote citywide sustainable coverage of water supply and sanitation for urban areas and local government area-wide sustainable coverage of water supply and sanitation for small towns and rural areas.
But committee members have concerns about the loan.
You are coming here to take another loan. You said they didn't tell you to tell us what you have done with the one given to you before. Ordinarily, you should know that we are going to ask you, what did you do with the one that was given to you before?
It stated 35 million is to be utilized by the state to develop personnel capacity, strengthen state institutions, derive policies and legislation for the improved monitoring and evaluation mechanism. Madam Pamsek, do we need to take loan to do these ordinary functions?
At the end of the meeting, the committee members resolved to summon the Minister of Water Resources to furnish them with more information about the loan, as well as the status of the loans collected by the ministry so far.
Let's take a look at more activities in the House of Representatives during the week.
The House Ad Hoc Committee, saddled with the responsibility of investigating allegations of fraud by real estate developers in the FCT, commenced its investigation. The event was declared open by the Speaker, represented by the House Majority Leader, who was concerned about the gaps in the relevant legislation that empowers some real estate developers.
Some real estate developers, while they capitalize on this opportunity to also operate with impunity, sometimes subverting the dreams and billions of naira of hard-working Nigerians. It is therefore our responsibility to introduce an effective regulation to resolve these issues all over.
Series of complaints and petitions from purchasers have highlighted
multifaceted challenges such as fraud, misrepresentation from marketing to completion phases, money laundering as exposed by the EFCC.
The Minister of the FCT spoke on the mass housing policy of the government.
I think it's still a very good policy. We just need to look at where we have challenges and then we move on. Of course, along the line with all policies, people now use some of it for money laundering, for all kinds of things that are not proper.
The ICPC chairman accused public officials of money laundering through real estate.
A tour around Abuja, especially in the metropolis and the central area, will show a lot of estates that are built up but empty. So it is suspected that some of those estates are being used to launder ill-gotten public funds.
He alleged a fraudulent collaboration between real estate developers and staff of the Federal Capital Development Authority.
The original of certificates of occupancy or land title documents are released to fraudsters and criminals temporarily in order to deceive investors. And after that deceit is effected, the documents are returned to the file.
Most of these members that he is referring to, they are not our members, they are not our registered members. And we cannot account to what they do because we are not aware of them.
Once I'm satisfied that the minister has signed an allocation paper, it is the minister's allocation that will take precedent. I don't expect there to be conflict.
The Independent Corrupt Practices Commission and the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission had stated their intention to sanitize the real estate sector, insisting that hard-working Nigerians should not lose their money to fraudulent developers without consequence. Meanwhile, the House of Representatives Committee on Healthcare Services is in support of the inclusion of the National Health Insurance Scheme (NHIS) in constituency projects. Chairman of the committee, Tanko Sununu, stated that this is to ensure that those at the grassroots benefit from the scheme, as lawmakers would select deserving groups from their constituencies. He gave further clarification after the budget defense session of the NHIS, which proposed the idea.
One good thing that why we endorse it is that you have the right to describe the particular groups of individuals you want. And for those of us that we've just started last year, those of us that engage, especially if you go to my constituency, when I engage myself, I target it to those who are 60 and above. Because they represent, I don't say that others don't need it, but they are a special group that deserve to be catered for. If you go to other countries, you see a lot of hospices, aged home, but that's not the practice in the country.
In the meantime, the Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, has expressed concern that Nigeria might turn to other countries to get information about itself in future if digitization is not taken seriously. He stated this in response to questions on securing the National Archives, which is still being done by analog means. Mr. Lai Mohammed was speaking during the ministry's 2022 budget defense before the House of Representatives Committee on Information, National Orientation, Ethics and Culture.
I had to take the Secretary of Government to our office in the Radio House to see the need for urgent digitization of our records. But the danger is that if I need ₦1 million to digitize, and you give me 200,000, what can I do with it, sir? So year in, year out, it's the same thing. We roll it. Meanwhile, these documents we are losing them by the day. Very soon, we'll be going to London, we'll be going to get information pertaining to us. There are some pictures that we need to preserve for our grandchildren. At times, we are unlucky too. There is flood, there is rain, there is termite that eats up some of these valuable records of history.
This is where we call it a day on this week's edition of The Gavel. If you have any views on any of the issues discussed, please email us on thegavel@channelstv.com. Thank you for staying with us and see you again next week.